So my second follow-up question there is you have three tokens on the platform. You have the B0X tokens, you have the I tokens and the P tokens. In that process, that walkthrough that you did, what is being generated at each step, and what's the point of these tokens?
Okay. So yeah, I guess I'll start with the I tokens. So the I tokens represent a share of the pool. So if you if you mint some amount of I tokens, that entitles you to some percentage of this I token pool,
So the
right?
I tokens are similar to the C tokens on the compound side.
Right, right, exactly. So, we kind of we were the ones who like initially published this idea of tokenized loans with in an article with MakerDAO, like in the summer of 2018, and then we published the technical specs for iTokens in March of 2019. Later on, Compound used designs very similar to it and popularized it to a large extent. But yeah, they're very similar. The one difference, or there's two differences, I would say. One of them is that Compound uses blocks rather than timestamps in order to calculate the interest. So this has caused Compound's interest to often actually be significantly off. During the last ice age, they were off by about 15%. They were actually giving you better than the label, but it did cause it to be off. And Open Zeppelin kind of like mentioned that they should probably transition to timestamps. So our design had the timestamps to begin with. And then the other difference is that in the case of a default, if a default goes through, what happens is the losses are socialized across the pool. Whereas with Compound, there's sort of a bank run situation where it's a hot potato. The first one to get out sort of wins. And we had a situation that's sort of like an intermediate of those situations earlier this year with the attacks that everyone has basically heard of, where essentially we delayed a loss from being realized into the pool until the insurance fund is large enough to absorb that loss. But this does kind of have like a similar effect as if we had the compound system where it's sort of a hot potato. But in the event that there's no insurance fund and the DAO decides that they're going to let the loss pass through, then everyone shares in the loss equally.
Okay, so that's the I token. What about the P token?
So the P token represents a position. It's a pooled position. So it's a token that when you mint it, it goes up, $4 for every dollar Ethereum goes up and vice versa. Um, these are really cool because they're very composable, very powerful. You can put them in like token sets. And as mentioned, you could whitelist them as a DEX, as a solution for DEXs. So like, if you were Kyber Swap or something like that, you could very easily use P tokens, just list it as you would any ERC20, and immediately your DEX becomes supercharged with margin trading capabilities. This really shines on layer 2, where when you're trading that ERC20 on layer 2, you're getting instant execution like a centralized exchange. So we're really proud of this innovation. There was DYDX originally had a product that they called margin tokens that were kind of similar, but they had a very different structure to it, where their tokens would expire every 28 days, whereas ours are perpetual. And then the other thing is that their leverage would sort of like fluctuate. So like their 2x token might be more like a 6x token. And so people getting into it, so somebody would come to the expo site and maybe want 2x, and they would see that the 2x is at 6x and there's no 6x. And also there's like two different dates for it. So it kind of caused a little bit of a UX headache. And our design sort of sidesteps some of these issues, which I think is what allowed it to become so popular and really take off when it did.
Okay, and then the B0X token?
And so the BZRX token, basically this is a governance token, and so it's going to be used to run the DAO. We're going to let people vote on how exactly it's going to be monetized, but we've pre- presented some ideas for that we think are very interesting and that kind of coordinate the incentives of the people participating in governance with the protocol over the long term and towards the health of it. So it's important that there's quite a few parameters on the protocol that will probably need some sort of tending to over time, and it's very important that whoever is doing it has some sort of revenue source, has some sort of incentive, that there's sort of a sustainable pattern to it. So the proposal that we have is basically that um, whatever percentage of BZRX you have can be used to redeem an equivalent percentage of whatever insurance fund is there and not composed of BZRX itself. So say there's 99 ETH and one BZRX in the insurance fund, and you have 99 percent of the BZRX, you could replace that 99 Ethereum, and then it would be 100% BZRX.